Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Mafia and Gangsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's continue the wonderful book, Super Mafia, Organized Crime Threatens America by Jonathan Harris. Once again, we are going into chapter 4. This will be part 2. The chapter is once again titled Odds on the Mafia. So in other words, it's showcasing big information associated with how the Mafia has infiltrated various parts of both the casino world and outside of it as well. We had just left off on some information involving the Flamingo, and then as far as the Nevada agencies essentially not clamping down on the regulations associated with the casinos. So this will continue that, and then I'll probably think there's one more part for this chapter 4 after this one. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's start part 2, and then here's what it says. The fact that nearly 50% of the state's revenues are derived from gambling doubtless has a lot to do with official reluctance to get tough. So do the gambling interests, heavy contribution to state and local political campaigns. About 30% of all jobs in Nevada depend on gambling. The inescapable fact facing would-be reformers in Nevada is that any politician daring to oppose the casino interests would simply have no future in Nevada politics. It is true that Nevada law bars known mobsters from owning and or operating casinos. That does not prevent them from doing it through respectable fronts. Even though such indirect ownership and operation guarantees hefty profits, the mob is still not satisfied. The really big take is obtained differently. The secret is skimming. This term embraces all the ways that the mobsters' fertile brains have found for draining off cash from the casinos before it had been officially recorded. Skimming cheats both the casino's stockholders and the tax collectors. It is easy in this loosely supervised setting because casino operation is almost entirely a cash business. In Las Vegas, there are no laws regulating the counting of cash as it comes in, nor are police or other government authorities required to watch over the count. Skimming techniques include grabbing money from stage show ticket sales, removing it from the cashier's cages before it has been counted, getting a piece of the cash on its way from the cashiers to the counting rooms, and then finding ways to convert the silver coins from the slot machines to currency so that it can be carried away. It isn't necessary to own the hotels and casinos to skim from them. Skimming rights are a separate, highly prized aspect of the business, often worth more than the hotels and casinos themselves. For many years, the most powerful man behind the Las Vegas skimming operations was the mob's favorite financial wizard, Meyer Lansky. This former gunman, hijacker, and thief had grown up with Bugsy Siegel. Together, they had mastered the ins and outs of the criminal life on the mean streets of New York. Their long association did not stop Lansky from agreeing to Bugsy's execution once it was clear that the mob bosses had turned thumbs down on him. Early in his career, Lansky made a reputation as a brilliantly inventive money mover. More than any other mobster, it was he who worked out the theory and practice of casino skimming. Under his hawk-eyed supervision, starting in the 1940s, no less than 20% of the Vegas casino income was regularly skimmed off. His partner, Doc Staisher, confessed this cream was never put on the books and went straight to Switzerland. It was never taxed at all. According to a Forbes magazine series on organized crime, some $36 million was skimmed off from a single casino, the Flamingo, over an 8-year period in the 1960s. Lansky got 60% of that. In a recent case, FBI wiretaps revealed that although the legal owners of Las Vegas's big Tropicana hotel and casino were a Minneapolis banker and the heiress to the Stouffer chemical fortune, it was actually being run by Kansas City Mafia boss Nick Savella. The Tropicana's bookkeeping records seemed to show that it wasn't doing very well. The real trouble was that it was being overskimmed. Joe Augusto, the Tropicana's entertainment director and reportedly the mob's agent, was overheard by the FBI in a phone conversation with a fellow mobster. It made only a fractional difference, said Augusto, considering the casino's gross income of $20 million. Whether the mob skinned off $200,000 one month or $500,000 the next, why should the owners complain about a measly 1%? The casinos serve still another illicit purpose. They are excellent for laundering money piled up from the mob's other rackets. Since Nevada's laws require no accurate count of the cash flowing in across the gaming tables, the casinos can simply claim that the illegal loot is part of the legislative winnings. Taxes are then duly paid on the extra cash in order to keep the government noses out of mob business. The rest can then be spent or invested at will. Casinos receiving cash from drug dealers or other mob operators can even transfer the funds directly to banks outside the country without reporting such transactions to the government. Under the Bank Secrecy Act of 1970, all currency deals for over 10,000 are supposed to be reported. For some hard to fathom reason, casinos were declared exempt from this law. Next segment is the battle for the Atlantic City casinos. When New Jersey voted to legalize casino gambling in 1976, its leaders pledged that their state would avoid the Nevada experience. The new casino law embodied rigorous restrictions. Every precaution was taken to keep organized crime out. From a strictly financial point of view, New Jersey had good reason to be pleased with the results. The Atlantic City casinos have been successful far beyond expectations, and more are on the drawing boards. The state has reaped a handsome harvest in tax revenues, nearly $200 million in 1983. The trouble is that the money has given the casino industry a lot of political clout. The Christian Science Monitor described the outcome. Important provisions of the law have been ignored, and regulations stemming from it have been repealed in the face of intense political pressures to license casinos and keep them operating. At least 3 of the big hotel casinos, Resorts International, Bally's Park Place, and Caesars Boardwalk Regency, have been investigated for alleged links to organized crime. Their licenses were finally issued only temporarily and under strict limitations. The state attorney general had actually recommended that the first 2 be denied licenses, but the Casino Control Commission overruled him. Despite these suspicions, the consensus among law enforcement authorities is that the mob has successfully been kept out of casino ownership and management. Asked about this, Lieutenant Fred Martins of the Intelligence Bureau of the New Jersey State Police agreed, but he added they are in the ancillary industries, cleaning services, meat and produce, linens and silver, bartenders, waiters and room service, entertainment, vending machines, and so forth. Bob Langford, chief of the FBI unit that specializes in mafia investigations, pointed out that domination of the ancillary industries enables the mob to wield considerable power and influence over casino management. And with that, let's go ahead and let's pause it here with regards to part 2 of chapter 4. Once again, from the book Super Mafia, Organized Crime Threatens America by Jonathan Harris. The title is, again, Odds on the Mafia, so let's talk about that here. Wow, what a really interesting way for it to go into detail as far as what's happening in the world of casinos, or was happening at least when it comes to the industry. So obviously the mafia went into it. They went into it big, and it talked about skimming. Now this was definitely something that was featured so prominently within the world of the movie Casino. I love that movie. Absolutely love it. I've seen it multiple times. I have the book that it's based off of, and I have the audio book as well. Both of them are really good, by the way. I highly recommend getting each if you haven't had a chance. That way it'll go into far more detail than what the movie did. The movie was already like 3 hours long, but this will go into far more detail. But yeah, the skim is absolutely what the mafia loved. It was interesting, though, to see how their own infatuation with skimming was essentially leading to losses. There you had that situation involving the Flamingo. Apparently, it was involved with the mafia at a certain point, and when that happened, they were skimming left and right. Even though it was a small percentage, it was still enough to essentially cause losses. And so it was almost like they were defeating their own purpose. They were taking money from the casino, but it would be harming the casino, and who knows what else that could have done afterward in terms of it being able to operate successfully. And then there was that bit about Meyer Lansky, absolutely one of the most prominent figures associated with the world of The Mafia here was someone who pretty much is the prime example of living it out to the end of his life successfully, if you could call that a word for this. In other words, he never went to jail, he never got assassinated, never had anything really bad happen to him, and it's all because he had that eagle eye and that sharp brain when it came to staying out of trouble. I remember reading a story about Meyer Lansky that when he was in his home and he was with his whatever associates, you never heard a single word from him. And this was because he was well aware that there was so much audio that was trying to be captured of him, like in other words, planted audio here and there in terms of the house locations. And so people would ask him questions and then he would just nod. Like that would be his way of communicating. And it worked. There would be nothing captured on the audio, so there would be nothing to hit him in terms of any kind of guilty activity because there's nothing there that could be done for it. But fascinating stuff. But the fact that he in turn had $36 million skimmed from the Flamingo, and he in turn got 60% of that, and that was in early 1980 dollars. Wow, absolutely crazy. And then the last part was going into Atlantic City casinos. It's pretty clear that they were trying to make sure the Mafia would not be involved with anything like in terms of larger operations. But once again, the Mafia shows its fluidity. Instead of working, let's say, directly with the major items of the casino, instead they worked in ancillary industries. As it was mentioned several times, they were there operating cleaning services, the meat, the bartenders, the entertainment, even the vending machines. All those items were coming from the Mafia, so they were getting their part and they had control over that stuff too, which is very important. But let me know what you guys and gals think. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.